August 12, 1864, Andersonville, Georgia. The air stinks of rot and smoke. A thin mist crawls over the stockade, where 15,000 men lie scattered on the red earth, some breathing, some not. In the corner of the camp, by a half-collapsed tent stitched from old shirts, a soldier bends over a tin plate. His hands tremble as he lifts something that looks impossibly like a slice of pie. The crust is made from scraps of hardtack soaked in water. The filling, nothing more than softened crackers, sugar, and vinegar, pretends to be apple. He closes his eyes as he eats, and for a moment the world beyond the walls returns. Orchards in Ohio, a kitchen warm with cinnamon, a voice singing from another room. Then he swallows and the illusion is gone. That was the first time anyone recorded the taste of mock apple pie. Born from hunger, it was not meant to deceive, but to remember. By the summer of 1864, the American Civil War had devoured nearly everything: men, land, memory itself. The Confederate prison at Andersonville, officially Camp Sumter, held more than 3 times the number of captives it was built for. Trenches served as drains and graves. Shade was a rumor. Water came brown from a trickle they called a creek. Men counted time in spoons of cornmeal and the distant rumor of thunder. The map of the camp was simple: stockade walls the color of dried blood, a deadline drawn like a noose, fires made from roots pulled out with bare hands. At night, silence pressed like a hand over the mouth. In the morning, the silence broke with coughing, with prayer, with the thin sound of a tin cup against a canteen. Fire, silence, hunger, the 3 elements of this wine-scoured world. Yet rituals survived. The Union prisoners, emaciated and hollow-eyed, learned to live by patterns: wash the cup, scrape the pan, barter a button for a pinch of salt, share a story about a table far away. Every act of cooking, no matter how meager, became ceremony, a rebellion against disappearance. They crushed hardtack with the butts of rifles, sifted dirt from meal through handkerchiefs, mixed in the shadow of the stockade so the smoke wouldn't bring trouble. And they talked about pie, about roast chicken, about the way butter size in a hot pan. Ghosts of plenty drifted over starvation like a forgotten hymn. So one evening, when a soldier found a scrap of fat, a handful of sugar, and a few biscuits, he said, "Let's make apple pie." The men around him laughed because there were no apples for 200 miles, and even laughter felt expensive. But the man was steady. He moved with the deliberation of a priest at an altar. He broke the crackers into careful pieces, soaked them in water till they softened to the grain of boiled fruit, added a spoon of molasses scrounged from a trade, and a splash of vinegar for tang. When the slurry hit the heat, the smell startled them all. It was almost fruity, almost real. He laid the mixture between 2 layers of dough made from crushed hardtack and lard, lowered the tin over coals, banked the fire with ash the way his mother had done, and waited. The crust burned at the edges, but when he cut into it, steam rose with a domestic fragrance that did not belong to prison. They ate in a circle, heads bowed. They called it mock apple pie. In the ember light, the slice shone like a small promise. Across enemy lines in the Union's own prison, Camp Salmira, Rock Island, Camp Douglas, the same invention spread as if hunger had a telegraph. Soldiers on both sides reinvented sweetness with whatever they had. Soda crackers softened to mimic fruit, sharp vinegar to mimic the tart bite of orchard apples, sorghum syrup or brown sugar when luck allowed, a sheen of salt pork grease on a crust to fake the lilt of butter. The ingredients were poor, but the idea was rich. In every makeshift crust lay the memory of abundance: women's hands at kitchen tables, knives sliding through tender crumb, children told to wait until it cooled. Cooking became a language of defiance. To bake pie where no apples grew was to say, we still imagine, we still create, we still live. Food is not only chemistry, it is also ink. It writes the body's story line by line. In Andersonville, the entries were short and written in ash. Cornmeal, a mouthful of peas, a sip of brackish water, sometimes nothing. But somewhere between smoke and silence, a different ink flowed. Ritual. It linked the living to a wider past. The act of making a pie without apples connected them to orchards, to grandmothers, to kitchens ordered by the old rhythms of Sunday afternoon. It stitched the men for the length of a breath to a broader fabric. Silk threads of memory ran through that coarse canvas of days. Thin, shining, almost invisible, strong enough, if held, to pull a man back from the edge. After a Paul Maddox, men went home with strange recipes in their pockets and older grief in their bones. Newspapers printed the mock apple pie for a nation that had to learn again how to lay a table. Later, cookbooks included it without its birthplace in misery, because history, like hunger, both clarifies and erases. By the 1930s, the recipe appeared on the back of a bright yellow box of crackers, a parlor trick for years of depression thrift. Imagine fruit where there was none. Make sweetness from what remained. People chuckled at the sleight of hand, yet beneath the laughter came an echo from the stockades. This pie had once been a sacrament. Imagine the making as it was, somewhere in 1864, in the shadow of war. The cook sets a dented pot over coals and watches the fire the way you watch a sleeping child, alert, quiet, full of care. He crushes the pale crackers between his fingers until they surrender, slips them into hot water so steam blooms into the night. Sugar melts, becoming glassy and thick. Cream of tartar, when luck or barter yields, it tightens the syrup and amplifies the tart note that persuades the tongue. Into the crust goes lard, or bacon fat, or a half-remembered rhythm. Cut, fold, press, mend. The dough cracks and he mends it. Everything here cracks. Everything is mended. He sprinkles a pinch of salt, perhaps a whisper of cinnamon begged from a guard or traded against a wedding ring he pretends not to miss. He presses the top crust with his thumbs. On the warm dough, the whorls of his fingers leave a map of a life not yet ended. When heat gathers under the tin and the scent rises warm, sweet, unreal, men who have forgotten laughter smile. Someone hums an old tune. For a few breaths, the firelight becomes candlelight and the camp becomes a dining room laid with silence and hope. Taste is a kind of memory, an old librarian who keeps the card for things the world has lost. An orchard can vanish. The tongue still knows its catalog number. Vinegar takes the place of malic acid. Sugar softens the lie into something truer than truth. Crackers swell into fruit, and for a heartbeat the mouth believes. In Andersonville, the dead lay in rows, more than 13,000 never to step past the gate. The survivors carried away scars invisible to any lens, a lifelong hunger not only of the body but of the soul, a caution around abundance, a silent counting of spoons. Years later, a veteran wrote, "When I eat pie, I think of that crust of cracker and the night we pretended it was apple." That line tells you what war takes, but also what imagination gives back. It gives back the shape of a table. It gives back the right to sit. There is another thread, fine as silk and easily missed, that runs from those campfires to kitchens where the war was felt as absence. In Ohio, a woman named Mary Turner baked every Sunday, though the war stole her husband and her sons for years at a time. In her diary she wrote, "I baked the apple pie though there were no apples. I made it for the sound of the knife on the crust." She did not call it mock. She called it remembrance. For her, as for thousands, cooking was communion, the one ritual that bridged the living and the lost, a liturgy performed with flour and steam, measured in quiet breaths rather than minutes. Women's voices often left out of the record spoke here in pastry, in the soft thud of a rolling pin, in the insistence that a house still had its center. History demands names, but in the kitchen you meet hands. Hands rinse the bowl. Hands turn the dough. Hands write in steam on a window what cannot be safely written in ink. And yet ink matters too. Letters carried from prison to parlor recorded more than movements of armies. They listed rations, weather, the sound of rain on a roof. In January 1865, in the cold of Elmira, a prisoner named Samuel Peake wrote on a scrap of paper, "We made a pie again tonight. It tastes near enough to apple. If I close my eyes, I see my mother cutting one fresh from the oven. If I open them, I see smoke from the stove and frost at the window." Either way, it is something to hold on to. 2 weeks later, he died. The letter survived. Ink, like hunger, is a witness. Food historians now, comfortable and exact, sometimes call mock apple pie a curiosity, a depressionary trick. They are not wrong about the recipe, but the recipe is not the whole dish. The rest is context, stockades, silence, firelight, stolen teaspoons of sugar, a ritual performed in extremis that said without saying, "We refuse to be only mouths. We will be memory too." The pie did not pretend. It testified, "If you bake it now, do it slowly. Boil the water with sugar until it shines like a small lake in the sun. Stir in a touch of acid, a squeeze of lemon, or a spoon of vinegar until the perfume turns convincingly tart. Break your crackers not into dust but into petals. Tender fruit is not smooth, it is layered. Simmer until the syrup holds them lightly, like a parent steadying a child. Work lard or butter into flour with your fingertips until the bowl feels like cold sand at the shore. Press and fold until the dough remembers what it is to be a sheet. Lay the bottom crust. Spread the filling. Taste the edge of a spoon. Decide whether the sweetness says September yet. Seal the top crust with a pinch that feels like prayer. Score lines so steam can lift, like a choir finding its note. Bake until the kitchen smells like a letter you want to keep. When it comes out, it will look like apple pie and smell like apple pie, and, if you close your eyes, taste like home. Every civilization rehearses this miracle. Romans thickened honey with bread when fruit ran low. Medieval cooks taught nuts to resemble cream for fasting days. Ottoman kitchens made quince glisten like lamb. Coastal peasants everywhere have turned stones of scarcity into broth. The story is always the same. Hunger invents. Imagination redeems. If there is blasphemy in the kitchen, it is not substitution. It is indifference. Food in times of peace is pleasure. In times of war, it becomes testimony. To taste anything in Andersonville or Elmira was to assert a right to exist. Appetite became moral. The mock apple pie in that light was more than dessert. It was a sacrament communion made not of wheat and grape, but of dust and willpower. Bread has always been metaphor. Here it was medicine. Look again at the photographs. Skeletal figures, sunken eyes, the shadow of fences like ribs against the sky. You are tempted to see only suffering. Look longer. Somewhere in those faces, someone has saved a pinch of sugar. Someone remembers how to crimp a crust. Someone holds silence the way one holds a bowl carefully, with both hands. History, like hunger, distorts and clarifies at once. Pain burns away ornament. What remains are the hard stones of meaning. A spoon, a fire, a story told quietly while the pot simmers. If you filmed the making now, you would begin with breath. A close-up on hands breaking crackers under warm lamplight. Steam fogging a window where fingerprints make moons. A pot of syrup bubbling, catching in its surface a trembling reflection of the cook's face. The soft hiss of the oven door. The camera drifting like a late summer moth as the crust bronzes to the color of autumn fields. A voice low and steady saying, "There were no apples in Andersonville." Cut to black. Then after a beat, the sound of a knife on a crust, the sound Mary Turner baked to hear. When the war ended in April 1865, hunger did not. Fields lay ruined, railways twisted, families reordered by absence. Yet kitchens were lit. Mock apple pie appeared at fairs and church suppers and soldiers' reunions. Grandchildren learned it as a novelty and only later learned why a grandfather sometimes fell quiet when cinnamon bloomed in the air. In the 20th century, a cracker company turned the recipe into a card trick. Lift the flap. See the secret, but the true secret had never been hidden. Sweetness is work. Comfort takes practice. The right continues because the need returns. What is the meaning of a dish born from starvation? It teaches that taste lives in layers, bitterness like loss, sweetness like forgiveness, the dry crunch of a cracker standing in for the sound of resilience, a tartness that insists, even now, on clarity. It says that we can make do without surrendering, that we can love the real without denying what the imagined gives. It asks a question about ownership. Whose story does a recipe belong to? And answers it gently, to those who needed it most, and to all who remember why. Imagine the soldier again, the one in Andersonville. He finishes his slice and leans back, eyes half closed. Round him the camp murmurs with coughs, with prayer, with delirium. In his mouth there is still a trace of sweetness, the ghost of an orchard. He thinks of home, of sunlight sifting through leaves, of his mother's voice calling him from the fields, of a table laid with plates turned upside down to keep the flies off. The fire crackles. somewhere far away, church bells ring. He believes, for the space of a heartbeat, that he might taste morning again. Hunger recedes the way the tide does, not forever, but far enough to show the shape of stones. He holds the warmth of the tin in both hands as if it were a book, and the book were his own story, and the story refused to end on a winter page. This is the miracle of food. It crosses time and war and ruin to tell us that we once lived differently and might again. It draws a silk thread through silence, a bright stitch that holds together a tear in the fabric. Every crumb of mock apple pie is testimony written in sugar and ash. It says that even in the darkest hunger, the human soul still knows how to imagine apples. We end where we begin, a prison yard, a tin plate, a trembling hand. The pie has cooled. The men around the fire have gone quiet. Smoke rises into the pale Georgia sky. The taste of sweetness fades, but not the memory of what it meant. Because sometimes survival is not about what you eat. It is about what you remember tasting. And now, after everything this story has carried, here it is. The legendary dish itself. The modern version of mock apple pie. A recipe born from desperation, remembered through generations, and still able to surprise the tongue today. Ingredients you single quotes LL need: 36 plain crackers, 2 cups of sugar, 2 cups of water, 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice or vinegar, a pinch of salt, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, a double pie crust, and if you want to elevate the moment, a pinch of cinnamon. Preparation. Let's begin with the syrup. In a saucepan, combine water, sugar, and cream of tartar. Bring it to a lively boil and let it simmer for 10 to 12 minutes until it turns clear, bright, almost shimmering, like sunlight rippling across a calm lake. Now comes the spark. Add the lemon juice or vinegar. Immediately, the aroma shifts, sharp, vibrant, and suddenly, almost like apples. Time to build the illusion. Break your crackers into pieces, not crumbs, actual pieces, like thin petals of fruit. Place them in a bowl or right into your pie dish. Pour the hot syrup. Watch as the crackers soften, transforming into something that feels shockingly close to real cooked apples. This is where the magic happens. Let's assemble our pie. Lay the bottom crust in a 9-inch pan. Scoop in the warm filling. Taste a little from your spoon. Is it sweet enough to feel like early autumn? If yes, perfect. Seal the memory inside. Cover with the top crust, pinch the edges tight, and cut a few small vents so steam can rise like a choir warming its voice. And now bake. Brush the crust with melted butter, sprinkle a little sugar, and place it in the oven at 425 Fahrenheit or 220 Celsius for 15 minutes. Then reduce the heat to 350 Fahrenheit 175 Celsius. And bake for another 20 to 25 minutes until the whole kitchen fills with a smell so warm, so comforting, you might forget for a moment that this pie was ever born from hardship. Let it cool. Give it 15 minutes. The filling settles, the flavors deepen, and the illusion completes itself. Closing line, excited Tony, and there it is. A pie with no apples, yet somehow bursting with the memory of them. Mock apple pie, proof that imagination can feed us even when the world cannot.